Hello, everyone. Welcome back inside the UC Health Training Center for another episode of Broncos Now. Team reporter and host Sydney Jones here. And coming up on today's episode, we'll take a look at how the Broncos opened up free agency, and we'll hear from several of the players that they've signed. All that and more coming up. Broncos opened up free agency with a bang, signing 10 players within the first 3 days. On Wednesday, the team announced that they signed defensive end Zach Allen, tight end Chris Mannertz, tackle Mike McGlinchey, and quarterback Jared Stidham. We caught up with all four of them to get their thoughts on why Denver was the best fit for them. Take a listen to what Allen, Mannertz, McGlinchey, and Stidham had to say.
Really checked all my boxes. Not just, the football side is perfect. It's just, this is the perfect spot to be in the NFL. And then also, the city of Denver, it doesn't get better than this. So, really blessed and, thankful to, get it done here.
Having a head coach like Sean Payton and the success he'd had in the past and the history of teams he's been with and building a culture. And the icing on top for me is just the familiarity with him. He was one of my first coaches, one of the first coaches to give me a shot. So it's very exciting.
It's the right fit for a lot of reasons. Obviously, a historic franchise and organization, a wonderful ownership group, a great general manager and Mr. Payton, and then obviously a Hall of Fame head coach and Sean Payton and the staff that he's put together here. And obviously, you look at the roster from top to bottom, and it's a roster that's ready to compete. And I'm happy to be a part of it. I hope I can, be a huge piece of this franchise in the years moving forward, and hopefully bring it back a couple big time wins.
I think the main thing was, Coach Payton. Obviously, been a huge fan of him and his time in New Orleans. From whenever I was a little kid, whenever he was, coaching Drew Brees throughout the years. So. Really, that was probably the main reason, just, getting to play under him and getting to work with him every day. I'm very, very excited about that.
The Broncos then signed guard Ben Powers, running back Samaje Perine, and re-signed inside linebacker Alex Singleton and safety PJ Locke on Thursday. Both Powers and Perine discussed their excitement to come to Denver.
Denver was right fit. It's close to home. It's a program that's ready to succeed, and I'm happy to be here.
I wanted to be a part of something special, and I know Coach Payton's passed, and he's a great coach, and I just wanted to have an opportunity to play for him.
And Singleton and Locke both talked about why coming back to Denver was the right move for them.
This is home. I love it here, and I know what we're building. I was, able to talk to Sean and George over the last few weeks, and yeah, it's something I want to be a part of. I'm excited to be a part of. I'm excited to, bring what we know we can bring here, and it's a lot of wins, a lot of playoff wins, and hopefully a Super Bowl.
You got to be ready to play for Sean Payton. A guy like that, a bunch of experience, Super Bowl experience, and, heard a lot of great things about him. And I'm just excited to get back to work, get the Broncos where we should be.
And finishing off the week here in Denver on Friday, the team signed quarterback and returner Traymon Smith and fullback Michael Burton.
Excited, just what this team has done in the past and just the history behind this team, all the great players that played. It's just exciting to sign, and especially with Sean Payton coming.
Just the opportunity to come here to play for him, be in his system that I played in before, that I'm comfortable in, be part of a great organization, a winning organization, great culture. So just an awesome opportunity, and just very thankful and blessed to be here.
Now joining me here inside the Broncos podcast studio to dive a little bit deeper into the team's free agent signings is Broncos lead writer Aric DiLalla. Aric, appreciate you joining me. It's been a busy couple days here at the team headquarters.
It has been, yeah, a lot of moves. It's been exciting.
Certainly some exciting moves. Yep, the past couple days, Aric, you said it. Let's start by looking at some of the additions on offense. I think two guys that Broncos country is probably most excited about are guard Ben Powers and tackle Mike McGlinchey. Definitely some much-needed talent, stability that they added there on the offensive line. What do you really think about those guys?
Yeah, let's start with Mike McGlinchey, because right tackle has just been a revolving door here in Denver for the last few years, since I've been here the last 7 seasons, dating back even before that. So if the Broncos can find a long-term answer there, that's a check, not only for this season, but for something they've been trying to do for years now.
Right.
McGlinchey, you've got a guy, former top 10 pick. He's got talent. I think he was the 12th best free agent on Greg Rosenthal of NFL.com's list of top free agents. So that kind of speaks to they went for a big move here at right tackle. Then you're talking about a guy who, especially in the run game, really, really good. As recently as 2020, was the top rated run blocker by Pro Football Focus among tackles, still in the top 10 this past year, top 10 in terms of fewest rushes allowed and pressures. So he's a guy that should hopefully bring stability there, big frame. in a mauler. And I think when you think about that, you also think of Ben Powers coming in at guard. I'll have to see where he plays. Obviously, Quinn Miners has played right guard. So you'd think, okay, well, maybe Powers goes at left guard, but we'll just have to see what happens there. Powers, again, really, really good, especially in pass protection. Gave up 1 sack last season, just one of 10 guards who played at least 1,000 snaps to do that. 1 penalty, 1 quarterback hit, a guy that's also really good in the run game. So you want to find, Sydney, people coming off these first contracts that are ascending. And, we've talked about the value of guys who are taking that step forward. Maybe there's a Pro Bowl in their future. Ben Powers, 33rd ranked free agent in that same list. So a really good player. And like you mentioned, offensive line, a priority. Broncos needed to get stronger, tougher, I think. Be able to impose your will at the line of scrimmage. We've seen Sean Payton teams do that in the past. Broncos certainly took a step in the right direction there.
Yeah, they were both in this week to sign their contracts. And Aric, they are big dudes.
Yep, absolutely.
Great to see. Yeah. Well, Aric, the team, they added depth at several other positions as well. Tight end Chris Mannertz, running back Samaje Perine. The team identified their backup quarterback pretty quickly in free agency with the signing of Jarrett Stidham. What do some of those guys bring to this team?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Manhertz. He's another tough dude. And
another big dude, too.
Exactly. Maybe the sign that the Broncos want to dominate the line of scrimmage and run the football more so than McGlinchey and Powers is the addition of Manhertz, because he's a guy that, big guy. He's going to be able to come in and help you in the run game, get you going, that blocking tight end. I would think he'd complement a guy like Greg Dulcich really, really well.
Definitely.
So he's going to be a nice addition, I think. Maybe not in free agency, the stars stand out, right? But you also need those guys that are going to be able to do the dirty work, help you out, have those role players. Manhertz, I view in that role. Perine, really good veteran running back. He's able to do it all in terms of run it out of the backfield, pass protection, catch the ball. And so when you have that ability to be a 3-down back or a 3rd-down guy, that's going to be really helpful, hard for defenses to prepare and know what you're going to try to do. If Javonte Williams is back week 1, which George Payton has said he was on track, he said that at the Combine, then Perine's a really good compliment to him. And if Javonte's not back or needs a little bit more time or they need to ease him in or whatever might happen, Perine's more than capable of shouldering that load. Who knows if the Broncos are done at that position, if they'll add more, but Perine's a guy, again, toughness. And I think you look at a lot of these moves and you think toughness. Perine's another guy that fits that mold. He stiff-armed a Chiefs player a couple years ago in the AFC Championship. Broncos could use a little bit of that. And then going to Stidham, a guy with high upside, obviously spent a little bit of time with the Patriots, got a couple starts last year with the Raiders, played a couple of really good teams there toward the end of the year. And against the 49ers, had 108 quarterback rating, 3 touchdowns, a couple of picks, but threw for more than 300 yards. That's a good performance by anybody, let alone somebody who's kind of thrust in on short notice and asked to make a start. So obviously Russell Wilson's still the starter, but to have a backup there that, elevates that position, has a little bit more potential, I think that's a good thing for this Broncos roster. I'm a big Brett Rippon fan, but I do think the Broncos needed to upgrade at that spot. And so that's what that represents in my mind.
Yep, makes sense. All right, looking at defense here, Aric. Looking at defensive end, Zach Allen, he signed with the Broncos on Wednesday. Spent his first 4 seasons with the Cardinals, so he's reuniting with Vance Joseph. Seems like he'll be a really good replacement for Draymond Jones.
Yeah, Draymond going to Seattle. He was a guy that the Broncos talked about really glowingly, but obviously now you bring in Zach Allen, who I think is just as good of a player, another ascending player. He's a guy that when you look at some of these advanced statistics, Sydney, his sack numbers, I think, 9.5 sacks over the last 2 years, more than a dozen quarterback hits. He's got those tackles for loss. So those things stand out. But when you look at the advanced statistics, which I think more and more people like in terms of these pass rushers, these defensive linemen, you look at sack and hit rate. And he's 5th among qualifying interior defensive linemen last season. You look at Draymond Jones, 33rd in that same metric. So obviously it's not exactly apples to apples, and it's not an end all be all in terms of, hey, does this make someone a better player? But certainly Allen's a guy that has that ability. He has familiarity with Vance Joseph, and I think just from what you've heard from other people in terms of like a J.J. Watt, who's been very vocal on social media. This is a guy that has a lot of upside. He's still growing into himself, has gotten better each season, which is something I really like. And when you look at free agency, do you want to sign a guy who's who's done the same thing each year, or do you want a guy who's shown each year he's gotten better and better? Exactly. Yeah. So with Zach Allen, he's a guy, he's improved his sack total each year, improved in a couple of these other statistical categories like quarterback hits and tackles for loss, pressures, those sorts of things. And so I see an ascending player, has the ability to force fumbles and make these plays. I think he had an interception as well. So good, solid player. The Broncos obviously needed to make a move there with Deshaun Williams entering free agency, heading to Carolina. Best of luck to him. Draymond Jones, best of luck to him as well, heading to Seattle. But the Broncos needed to make a move there. I like what they found in Zach Allen.
Broncos also re-signed a couple of guys, inside linebacker Alex Singleton and safety PJ Locke. I know a lot of our fans are going to be excited that Alex Singleton's back, of course, leading tackler last year.
Yeah, really good player. Yeah. Came in, had led the Eagles in tackles the last 2 seasons, and I think people thought, this is going to be a special teams guy or he'll be a really good reserve player.
Right.
And instead, he was thrust into the starting lineup. Yeah, he proved them wrong, was really good, was all over the field. I think he had a couple of games with 20 tackles. I mean, that's ridiculous. And so, I think 6 or 7 overall with double-digit tackles. He's all over the field. A really good player, has earned it. He played in the Canadian Football League for a while. He's had to kind of work his way up to this role. Exactly. And so to find a spot here in Denver, get some long-term stability, I think that's really important for him. So congratulations to him first and foremost. I also think it sends a good message to the locker room. You bring these guys back. And, to me, it was a little bit maybe of a surprise just because Ejiro Evero moved on to Carolina. I think there was a lot of talk of, does he follow him there?
Right.
And instead, the Broncos said, no, we want to prioritize bringing you back. You're an important piece of this group. Excited to have Alex still here in Denver.
Definitely, yeah. Well, all in all, a successful first couple of days of free agency here. Last one for you, Aric. What position do you think maybe Sean Payton and George Payton will now, look to target over the next couple of weeks?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's hard to say for sure just because they've hit so many needs, right?
Yeah,
you got quarterback, you got offensive line, you got defensive line, you got a cornerback, running back, safety. I mean, they've gone all over the board here, tight end.
Right.
And so, do you add depth still at defensive line? Do you look at edge rusher? Is there – you look at a skill position on offense and add more at running back or wide receiver or whatever. I mean, it's hard to say. And I think part of what's exciting about this, whenever you enter year one of a coaching staff or a new GM or whatever, part of it is kind of like a feeling out process where you learn what do they prioritize, what do they want. I think it's clear from these first moves, they prioritize toughness, smart football players.
Yeah.
And so whoever's next, and maybe it's right after we're done recording here, Sydney, or maybe
That's true.
Hopefully not, but maybe
I hope not.
Or maybe it's closer to the draft, or maybe it's in the lead up to training camp.
Yeah.
There will be more moves. I would imagine whoever they sign is going to be in that same mold. A tough football player, knows how to win football games, and is going to add to this roster.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I know the draft will be here probably before we know it.
Exactly.
Only a couple weeks away.
Yeah.
Well, Aric, appreciate your insight always. Thanks for coming on the show today.
You got it.
Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Broncos Now, Broncos Country. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you meet me right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube next week for another episode. I will see you all then.